My friends, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be the Tesla video that I promised yesterday. I decided to go see F1 with my wife and son and his fiance last night instead of doing the video. So I apologize that it did not get out, which by the way, go see F1. It was a freaking awesome movie. Haven't had that much fun in a theater since Top Gun Maverick. Interestingly enough, it's the same director that did Top Gun Maverick, but there's a bunch of other movies that are going to be coming out that are going to kick it out of like big, nice theater areas. So before, Jurassic Park and Superman and Fantastic Four and all that kind of show up, go see F1 in the biggest screen that you can with the loudest surround sound that you possibly can. It was awesome. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. All right, let's jump into the video. So like I said, Tesla video. We've got deliveries coming out tomorrow. Before I go any further, you know the deal. Nothing about this video is financial advice. This is just my opinion on Tesla's stock chart and some of the likely moves that I think are going to be coming up here and potentially the next, coming days to weeks to even months. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We're coming up on like 10,000 subscribers. We'll do some type of fun giveaway for that once we hit 10,000 subscribers. And then also too, let's see here, not tomorrow, but Thursday, July the 3rd, I will be opening up my Discord and running a special. So if you want to join that, you got to follow me on Twitter, which if you haven't done so already, please do that. Anyway, Colin_Gladman. That is where if things change throughout the day, I'll update, thoughts. I'm never just well, this is just all bear or this is all bull post. It's always kind of a if this, then that. I always say while the market is open, you're constantly getting new information. You should use that information to change your opinion at any point in time. All right, so let's do a quick little walkthrough of where we've been on Tesla. So we had the long-term consolidation that happened. Then we had the initial push up and the liquidity grab from the robo-taxi event. And since then, we have tumbled a grand total of 17%. Now, the whole reason I'm making this video is on June the 24th, I posted this post that said, I don't make the rules. And I posted with that my picture of a liquidity trap that is very common that you see in the markets. And I had a bunch of people saying, BS or that won't happen. And, well, yeah, he's like, BS. That's what they always tell me. So anyway, that's not what this video is about. What this video is about is we pushed up to some untested supply and we got a rejection. The robotaxi event did not quite roll out exactly like I thought it was going to be. I thought that Monday after the robotaxi event was going to be a sell the news event. It did gap up kind of like I was anticipating, and then I thought we would catch the move down. We didn't. We pushed up to the untested supply first. We rejected out some key levels, and then we started the latest downtrend. But the big reason that I pulled this up is because I posted this on June the 24th, and if you'll look right here, already marked off on my chart is this level of $300.05. We're going to come back to that. That's important. All right, so let's go back over to the chart. So we started tumbling. So once again, I posted that on right here, right at the top. And since then, we have tumbled all the way back. And look where we stopped today. $300.05. Literally closed right around that line. So let's kind of, when in doubt, zoom out. Let's talk about where that came from. Well, if we go back to a weekly look on Tesla, and we zoom all the way out, this 300 level, and think of it like this isn't, necessarily just a steel barrier. Think of this 300 level. Obviously, it's a key psychological level. However, this is a level that Tesla has traded around for a very long period of time. And this 300 level has been a very key level of key support and resistance flip since all the way back in January of 2021. And here we are in July 1st for that matter, of 2025. And we talking about January of 2021. So anytime you're trying to identify these very important support resistance flip for a stock, yes, I think it's more important how recent that level was reacted to. However, Tesla has traded around that, like I said, since January of 2021. It has been a massive support resistance flip, and you can just see all the different rejections and support resistance flips that it's been in. So I never try to be a bullish above and bearish below person, but this clearly is something that Tesla overall, if it can hold 300, it looks better over 300 than not. Back over here, we have our all-time high trend line, which, by the way, guys, when you're charting on a macro scale and looking at it macro, please make sure you chart and log and not linear scale. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. So I talked with my team back in March 2025 when we came all the way back down here, and I said, is this just a retest of our macro downtrend? And then we started to push up, and obviously we started to push up from there. So we're at a key level heading into deliveries tomorrow. So overall, Wall Street expectations I've seen as low as like 350, but the consensus across the board really kind of seems like between like 380 to 395. I personally think Tesla's going to miss delivery numbers tomorrow. I think they're going to come in potentially low 350s, maybe even lower than that. And I think it's going to cause the stock to at least gap down. Now, let's talk about what happened last time. So, jog over here to April 2nd. Last time Tesla announced their deliveries was right here. So Tesla, they announced their deliveries. Tesla gapped down 5%, 5.25% to be exact, pushed all the way down to a 6.5% before then pushing up. So let's actually go, I hadn't done this yet. Let's go look at that kind of on the lower time frame in May. Right here. Sorry, I never really plan out these videos other than obviously what I'm going to be talking about. Yeah, so, and I mean, pretty much from the moment it opened, it dipped down at first, then it ripped, made a nice little bull flag, continued ripping all day after that. So, even though the initial reaction was gap down, the move after that was we're going to push up all day. So we'll kind of wait and see what happens. Today, Tesla put in, and obviously there's, everything that's been going on with Trump and Elon. I posted on Twitter, I was like, the reason this time is different, in my opinion, is because last time it was a little bit of shock and awe, panic. That was obviously this day back over here on my Twitter. We had a very good day that day. You can, once again, please follow me, all that good stuff. Made a little over $1 million on that day. So it was a crazy day, obviously. But now we're getting a much more muted reaction. And if anything, the sentiment that I've seen on Twitter has just been, oh, this is a nothing burger. They're going to kiss and make up again. Buy everything that you can possibly get. So I always teach my team, talk to myself when I'm thinking about my trade plans, is always put on the hat of like, what is going to overall screw over the most people? So in my opinion, most people think they just got a hell of a deal on Tesla today. So the overall pain trade, in my opinion, is still further down. The Tesla Uber bulls were like, thank you for your shares. I appreciate your donation. The Tesla Uber bears were their typical rhetoric. And I don't really care about that. Honestly, what I love so much about Tesla is the fact that it is always a perma bull, perma bear stock. It's a polarizing stock. You ask people, opinions about Elon Musk, and he's a very polarizing figure. It's never typically just, he's okay. It's either like, oh, I love him, I think he's brilliant, or I think, he's a crazy, racist, misogynistic, whatever, there's just so many wild and crazy opinions about him. And just like most things in life, the reality is probably somewhere in the middle. So, but because Tesla has so much volatility. It's super fun to trade, in my opinion. So, key levels going into tomorrow. Number one, can we hold 300? If 300 doesn't hold, let's say we get some type of similar gap down, because when those delivery numbers come out, we typically get somewhere between a 5 to a 10% reaction on the stock. So where we close today, if we move, roughly 5% down, that's going to be down towards about 284-ish. If we move 5% up, that's going to be right up here pretty much to the 200-day moving average. The one thing that I will say is we have an anomaly candle down here. Now, what does anomaly mean? Well, anomaly means that we have a doji candle. I would argue it's a long-legged doji candle, and we have increased volume. So anytime volume upticks, you typically want to see a widespread candle attached to that. Very similar to what we saw over here the day that Elon and Trump originally had their spat. So always think widespread candles, we want to see volume with it. Little bitty spread candles, we want to see volume dying out of that. Just like right here. These little low spread candles right here, very low volume. That checks out. So today we've got a long-legged doji candle, which means price pushed as high as, let's just make sure we're accurate. It's 305.89. We pushed as low as 293. So that's basically a 12-point spread. However, from where it opened, we opened at 298. We closed at 300. So there was a 13-point spread, but overall from open to close, it was only 2 points. So that's why you have a very little body on this candle. But you have volume coming in here. So that a doji candle doesn't mean anything other than a power struggle. So think of that candle as there's a tug of war going on. Over here we've got the bulls, over here we've got the bears, and they're constantly pulling back and forth between each other. That's what that candle is telling you. Nothing abnormal about that other than with a lot of volume coming in, that just means there was a lot of shares traded. For instance, the last time we saw a similar amount of shares traded, Tesla saw an 8% up day overall. So it's just one of those things where you go, there's lots of shares moving around. So it's nothing more than a red flag. A candle setup is just that. So let's talk about what you want to see tomorrow if you're bullish. If you're bullish, you want to see this set up very much like a morning star look. Very famously in my Discord, I say famously, it's famously to me in my Discord. Oh, dang it. Didn't mean to do that. Go back. Thank you. Back over here. So last time we saw a Tesla setup, very similar to this. This was not deliveries, but in Friday, August of 2023, we saw a gap down. We saw a large volume increase, very low spread candle. The very next day, stock gapped up and ran. This is what's called a morning star look. You had a bearish candle, then you had a high volume, low spread candle, then you have a gap up followed by increased volume. And typically when this happens, you want to take out at a minimum at least 50% of that bearish candle. So, So going into tomorrow, that would mean to have a really good look for the bulls, you'd want to close like over 320. If delivery numbers come in and are pretty surprising, I don't think you're going to have any problem with that. If Tesla gaps up above the 200-day, I would be willing to bet it's going to push up here towards that 326 level. Who knows? Maybe even higher depending on how well it is. It does, because there would be overall a lot of shorts in this thing. Now, the reason that I've been bearish on Tesla, and as of right now, my overall feeling is I am still leaning bearish. I already told you, I think they're going to miss deliveries. At the end of the day, I don't really know what's going to happen when it opens, but I do think that Tesla's probably going to gap down into tomorrow. I think that's the more likely scenario. Of course, I'm always willing to accept the fact that I can be wrong on this deal, but the way the chart looks, it's leaning me towards a more bearish bias that we are going to come down. So, and let me explain why. So as of right now, our macro look since December of this year, so since January of this year, Tesla is in a downtrend. The only people who are positive on Tesla this year are the people who bought in the bottom of March and April. But overall, I don't care what your feelings are. The market doesn't care about feelings, and I don't care about your feelings. Go talk to your mama if you need somebody to talk to you about your feelings. Overall, right now, we are in a series of from highs to lows to lower highs to, as of right now, we have not made a new low. But I think at best we're going to look back and this kind of becomes a double bottom here before potentially moving out. This has never been, and the reason is because this was a very bearish rejection up here, and I will once again explain why. So if we take our Fibonacci retracement tool and we start from the top and we go down to the bottom, Tesla rejected the 618 retrace. Not once, but multiple times. So every time Tesla's coming up here into this 360 area, it is met with very strong bearish rejections. Now we have a huge gap down that obviously didn't even come close to filling. So right now, no matter what your feelings on Tesla are, in the short term right here, the bears are very much in control. You made a lower high. Now you've made a gap down that didn't even come close to filling. And you are below all your key support areas that needed to be support resistance flips on the way up. So what I think the most likely is a minimum retest of back down here around the 270 area. There is still a gap right here. Let's see here. This close is 259.51. Yeah, and this was 259.63. So there is still a common gap right here. Now, this gap, I don't know that I think needs to be filled because this was an earnings move gap. So I do think this one down here in the 260 area is probably going to fill. That's my opinion. I think the market is going to slow down enough, and I think some of the stocks that are a little bit more bearish sentiment are going to come down and fill some of these gaps. So honestly, anything between 270 all the way down to, even if this gap does wind up filling down to 240, is going to be where I get very bullish on Tesla again. If we take our fib extension tool and we go from the top of May down to the bottom in June, back up here to the top after the robotaxi event, our one extension takes us to 265. So it's no, secret, if you will, that these are the best tools that we have for future price movement. Once again, it doesn't have to hit it on the dot, but I will say this. Let me show you something. So whenever I was posting this bear flag up here, that everybody told me, oh, no way, is that going to work? And then when Tesla originally came down here and then pushed back up, never mind. I just won't even get into that. Allow me to have the heart of a teacher here. So from here, our swing high on June 25th to the next low, we go up to the next high. Where did Tesla stop today? Pretty much right at that one extension of 296.49. So it came down, it hit that one extension before you saw any type of meaningful bounce. Now, Tesla is consolidating in what's called a bearish rectangle. This is just going to be where price moves down, consolidates down here towards the lows. Now, could this be invalidated and this kind of turn into a little island bottom and Tesla, gap up in here and start to move? Absolutely. 100% that is a possibility. I don't think that's the most likely thing. The most likely thing right now is the reality is, if anything, you've kind of created a little bit of an island top, which means there was a gap right here, and you still haven't filled that gap, right? And so now you have all this price action right here and heavy supply that's sitting above. So could Tesla have decent delivery numbers it move back up into here, but then get rejected, and then that's when we see our new low? Absolutely. I guarantee when Tesla moves back up here into kind of this 315 to low 320 area, I absolutely am going to sell some cover calls and probably buy some puts again. I am going to treat all of this supply and resistance as that until it can prove that it's not. The most powerful thing would be, Tesla just blow deliveries out of the water, and then you really see, some type of massive gap up. I just don't see a world that is. It's certainly not the most likely thing. So I don't see that. What I think it's going to need to do is we've got a gap right here, which is a common gap, right? Because it took place in this range. And I apologize, that gap got filled on the whole Trump craziness. But this one right here, this kind of 260 level, that's going to be a big level to hold whenever we come back here. But overall, I think the reality is we could stop anywhere between 270 all the way down to the low 200s and just make a double bottom in here. And none of that looking back would surprise me. It just really depends on how big the market pullback is. But this was never, this was a clear, in my opinion, impulsive move to the downside. And this has been nothing but a more corrective move topside. The reality is this just is more of kind of like a big sort of bear flag / rising wedge look. Now, does that mean it could come down here and then we start to do one of these? Absolutely. There's literally that's why you can't be biased. It's literally why you just have to keep an open mind and go with whatever the chart is telling you. But the short term, both kind of the more macro looks and the shorter term looks are all telling me to lean more bearish right now. So that is what I'm going to do until I am proven otherwise. At the end of the day, if your overall macro trends are down, the prevailing trend is the most likely thing to take over at some point. And please remember that the number one thing that the market needs is liquidity. So it found a ton with this whole robo-taxi move. Now it's found a lot of sellers. Now it's going to have to go low enough to find more buyers. And the reality is those buyers are not the perma bull buyers, because they're just, if you're believing them, they have limitless amounts of cash and they're just buying 24/7. Just like the perma bears, they're constantly shorting the thing. So the reality is you got to get reasonable people, reasonable investors, institutional investors to start going, hey, this stock is undervalued right here. And if they miss deliveries tomorrow, I don't know that that's a sign of, hey, this is undervalued right here. If anything, it could say, we're going to need to wait just a little bit. Like all things, there will come a time where I go, I'm super bullish on Tesla again. I have thousands of shares in my long-term holdings. None of that is planning on changing or anything along those lines. So it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just Twitter just wants to be so angry sometimes. I am still very bullish. My long-term horizon on Tesla is still very bullish. I'll be the first to admit, though, I hope Elon quits talking about politics. I think he does much better when he focuses on his companies and not politics. But overall, I like Tesla to still move to the downside. Let me also. So our fib retrace. So if you can't tell by this video, I'm a huge believer in fibs. So our golden pocket down here at this 618. So from our swing low that happened in April to our swing high that happened in May, we draw a retrace tool from there. Our 618 has still not come back down here and hit. So I still think that we're going to see that. I think we're going to see 260s all the way potentially down to double bottom territory again. That is what I think is the most likely move. That is what the chart is telling me. All of our shorter term EMAs and SMAs. So my favorite ones for EMAs are the 921. You got a daily cross down today. Your 5 SMA, which is my favorite SMA for all short-term momentum on daily charts. all that is crossing down, and it's all about to cross under a major moving average of the 200. So even a weak bounce that moves kind of back up here towards that 312 area and then runs into those SMAs and then rolls over, then that's when you absolutely can see that next leg down. I really hope that it happens a little bit quicker, because to be honest, the quicker the move down happens, the faster the snapback can be. I won't be worried about Tesla's macro chart at all unless it starts losing kind of these 200s. The reality is, and I've talked about this a lot before, I think any long-term Tesla bulls need to understand that there is a possibility that kind of this rising support could easily get tested again before then making a move out of here. I don't think that's not my most likely. My most likely right now is to come down here, create something, whether it looks like I said, a double bottom. We might need to sweep out and do a full extension. But like right now, it's just all the power is on the bear side. And yes, and even the 1.618 takes us down to 220. So that makes a lot of sense, guys. It really does. Like I said, I'm not saying that to be, a perma bear or anything along those lines. I'm saying that because that is what the chart is suggesting. But there's no doubt the first line in the sand is right here. Right where we are. Kind of this 300 level. This is essentially, we have kind of it's a wonky kind of inverse head and shoulder / double bottom look, right? Really kind of a triple bottom aspect of it, and then a push out. So I realize I got a lot going on my chart. We have the push down, we have this, and now we're coming back and testing. So the bulls just really need to hold here. If they don't hold here, we're going to sweep in to get some liquidity and then come out from there. I said I still like that 260, 270 level to kind of take care of these common gaps that were left behind. And also too, right, like if delivery numbers come out, Tesla has a bad day tomorrow, sentiment's going to get awful, and it's not only are the deliveries suck, but now also Trump's going to take away all the different subsidies that they got going on. So, Tesla is doomed, right? If it starts dropping back down here below this 270 level, you can hear it. And that'll be the time that it'll be to get real bullish. If we kind of look back on this look here, and this all kind of turns out to really just sort of be some type of bull flag. But I mean, the reality is, like I said, it's correcting. So after you put in a new obvious lower high, the trend anytime, so just like when you're going up, you go up, you make a high, then you come back and you make a higher low, and then you come back and you make a higher high, and then you come back and you make a higher low, and then so on and so forth. That is the overall trend, right? So right now, we have a high with a low with a lower high, so that means lower low. That is what the trend is leaning towards. Even if we push up in the short term, the reality is how we make this look a little bit more invalid is you got to put in a new high. That's kind of what gives you a change of character right here. And I'll be the first to tell you right now that if we start getting over kind of this 360, 370 area, I will be very bullish. I think Tesla's going to move on and make new highs from that point in time. So that's what to be looking for. But right now, our trend is a high to a low to a lower high. Now I'm looking for at best an equal low, if not a lower low. And then we'll just need to be looking for some kind of sweep out candles at that point in time. So follow me on Twitter, like and subscribe for a short term look. I'm just sorry, guys. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm kind of covering all my bases here. Let's see here. Do we put in? So what I would be looking for, so potentially here, is let's say if Tesla tomorrow does open up and makes a new low, like let's say it does kind of gap down in here into this 280 area, but if the RSI makes a higher low and Tesla kind of starts to push right off the bat, those are typically good signs that you can see when a bottom is getting put in. Tesla is notorious. Honestly, lots of stocks. Here's a perfect example of it, right? So Tesla doesn't roll over and it doesn't make a new low, but But overall, you kind of came back over here to equal lows, and the hourly RSI put in a much higher low. And then obviously it was off to the races after that. So if that would be the looks to look for, if you will, when it comes to kind of finding those bottoms. Yeah, see here, very similar look here too. You come down here, you make a low, you come down here, come a few points in it, but the RSI is much higher. So look for some of those, kind of bullish divergence looks if you want to try to swing trade anything high. I'll be honest, until proven otherwise, I'm going to keep waiting for my moments to short the pops, and then between my covered calls and the money that I make on puts, look to acquire more long-term shares. Hope this video was helpful to you. Apologize if I was a little all over the place. Like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Much love. At the end of the day, do what is best for yourself, your family, and your portfolio. Put a trade out there that allows you to put your head on your pillow at night and sleep soundly, right? You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to anybody else on Twitter at the end of the day, because I can be wrong. I always tell everybody I plan on being wrong 30 to 40% of the time. That means I only plan on being right 60 to 70% of the time. But at the end of the day, this chart is very bearish on all time frames, in my personal opinion. There's no doubt that this was kind of a UTAD distributive move, and I think we need to come down here and kind of start a new accumulation period. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Sorry, I can keep rambling and going on forever. But like I said, I hope this video was helpful to you. I wish you the very best on your trades, whether you're on the same side as me, the other side as me. Like I said, go kill it. Much love. I'll catch you guys in the next one.